When it comes to forecasting for a group of items, it is necessary to use a statistical model such as Monte Carlo simulations. In this video, we'll do a deep dive into Monte Carlo How Many. Monte Carlo How Many will help you answer the question, how many items can I complete by a given date? To begin with, you need to select what date will be the end point in the simulation controls. For example, you can enter the end date of your sprint to know how many you can complete by that date. Or you can also choose a date next month or any other date in the future. Now that you have set your simulation controls, don't worry about the scale throughput by, we'll get to that in a minute. You have to confirm what data should be used for the simulations. To do so, you need to scroll down to the throughput run chart at the bottom of the page. On this chart, you can select what data on the timeline is relevant for the simulations. It's important to only select the data that is roughly similar to the work you will do in the next few weeks and months. You can adjust the selection with the cursors or by entering the precise dates. For example, work done during summer vacation might not be very representative and can be excluded. By clicking on Item Filter in the chart controls, you can select what should be included amongst the different attributes from your dataset. This is where you can decide to only forecast epics or other issue types. We generally recommend not to mix parents and children, and to focus on issues from the same categories such as defect, tasks, and stories. Now that you have set your simulation controls, selected the data to use on the timeline, and made sure to only include the relevant data, you can look at the forecast. As you may have seen, the moment you tweaked the controls, the histogram updated. This shows that the forecast was already updated and is ready to be read. As you can see in the histogram, we are not giving you one answer, but a range or possible outcomes. This is what is called a probabilistic forecast. You see the different options and their probabilities. It is up to you to decide how much risk are you willing to take with the forecast. Out of all the trials, in 95% of them, we managed to complete 72 items or more by the 29th of November. In 85%, it was 84 items or more, 70% 95 items or more, etc. The higher the confidence level, the more pessimistic the forecast will seem, and vice versa. The more risk you are willing to take, the more optimistic the forecast will be. You can hide parts of the charts if you want by clicking on the icons at the top. Let's say you would like to run a forecast, but you don't have enough historical data. For example, you are forecasting how many items can be done by the end of the year, but you don't have data to show how Christmas impacted the team. That's the perfect moment to use the Scale Throughput By feature to play with different what-if scenarios. Let's say that you estimate that 20% of your team will be off due to vacation and/or sickness. You can replace the 1 by 0.8. It will reduce all your throughput by 20% and will update the forecast using the new parameters. You can also do it the other way around. You have just hired new people to the team and want to see how they will impact your throughput. If you estimate that it might increase by 40%, you can replace the 1 by 1.4, which will update the forecast accordingly. When using the throughput scale by, the histogram might look different than expected, with high and low bars next to each other. This is caused by the banker's rounding, which rounds to the closest even number. A word of caution, by tweaking the scale throughput by value, you have now entered the what-if scenario world. You don't know that having 3 people less on the team will cause a 20% decrease of your throughput, or that adding 5 people will increase it by 40%. Those are estimations, which might be completely wrong. Use those until you have generated enough data with the new context, with the extra team members, and always revert back to your actual data with the 1. The true power of the Monte Carlo simulations is that every day that work is completed, your throughput will change, which will either make your forecast better, the same, or worse. If you regularly run the simulations, and don't forget to always set up the parameters, you will always get an updated forecast. The sooner you are aware of potential issues, the easier and faster it is to investigate the change and have corrective actions. To learn more about the chart, you can easily access our documentation by clicking on the info icon in the header. For a deep dive into how Monte Carlo simulations work, feel free to check our separate video.